In Book of Change, we have two systems of the 8 trigram. They are Fuxi prenatal 8 trigram and Qingwen post-natal 8 trigram. Fuxi prenatal 8 trigrams deal with principle of yin and yang, while Qingwen post-natal 8 trigrams deal with 5 elements. What is 5 elements? How they made a great deal to do with the Book of Change and the 8 trigrams? The 5 elements are water, fire, wood, metal, and soil. They are not just tangible substances, but they pose an invisible form of energy. Water represents cold energy. Its movement is downward. Fire represents heat energy. Its movement is upward. Even wood and metal have their own forms of energy. Wood ascribes to expanding energy. By observing how the tree is growing, you know the force is moving outward. Metals, on the other hand, ascribe to contracting energy. Force is moving inward. How about soil? We all live on soil. And we, as a human being, we are all made by soil. After we die, all it left is just soil. Ancient Chinese believed that everything in the universe can be classified into these 5 elements. For example, of 4 seasons. Spring attribute to wood, summer attribute to fire, autumn attribute to metal, and winter attribute to water. Human organs can also be differentiated into 5 elements. Liver attribute to wood, heart attribute to fire, lungs attribute to metal, kidneys attribute to water, and stomach attribute to soils. In the modern day, if we Google 5 elements, it usually pops up these kind of diagrams. In fact, none of these diagrams are documented in the Book of Changes. But they bring up a similar idea that the ancient Chinese were trying to convey. A model of how these 5 elements react to each other. In my video, I won't use the modern diagram. Instead, I would rather apply the 5-element theory to the diagram of River Map. River Map is a divine numbering system that the entire Book of Change is based on. Therefore, by applying the 5 elements to River Map, it gives a clear guidance of how the metaphysical world is running. If you don't know what River Map is, I highly recommend you to watch my previous video. The ancient Chinese believed the 5 elements held different stances toward one another. Let me first introduce you to the 2 fundamentals. Generate and destroy. They are the most basic terms to describe the relationship among these 5 elements. In Chinese character, generate means to promote, produce, or give birth. On the other hand, destroy means to repress, overcome, or restrain. Let's take a look at the generate perspectives. First, we start with water. Water is an element that nourishes trees and plants. It promotes the growth of flowers, vegetables, and crops. Thus, water generates wood. How about wood? Wood is an element that feeds fire. Wood produces fire. It stimulates fire. That's why firewood is called firewood. Thus, wood generates fire. How about fire? Fire burns things to ash, creating earth. Thus, fire generates soil. How about soil? If soil is a mother, what kinds of babies will she deliver? Gold, silver, platinum, copper, or iron were all found in the Earth's crust in the form of small grains or large lumps. Thus, soil generates metal. How about metal? How can metal generate water? Whenever there is a shift in temperature from hot to cool. As a result of condensation, we saw the creation of water droplets. Thus, metals generate water. The 5 elements form the generating cycle in a clockwise direction. It illustrates how one element generates and nurtures the next in an orderly sequence. If an element can generate, it may also destroy. The destructive cycle is also running in a clockwise direction. But this time it jumped from one element to the next second element. For example, water destroy fire. Water can put out a fire is common knowledge. How about wood? How can wood destroy soil? The roots of the tree break up the soil and deplete the earth's nutrients. Thus, wood destroy soil. How about fire? Fire can melt gold, silver, copper. No matter how hard they are, fierce fire melt them all. Thus, fire destroy metal. How about soil? How can soil destroy water? When we see land reclamation in urban city development, we know how soil can fill the ocean. Thus, soil destroy water. How about metal destroy wood? Whether in the past or the present, axes and sawmills are the useful tools to cut wood and timber. Thus, metal destroy wood. The idea of generate and destroy is pretty straightforward. It addresses the orderly function of our ecosystem. If you think the river map version is a bit confusing, you can refer to the modern version, which also brings up the same ideas of generate and destroy. This diagram demonstrates how the 5 elements associated with the post-natal 8 trigrams. I tried to label them in 5 different colors for easy understanding. Yellow for metal, red for fire, blue for water, and green for wood. As we all learned, Earth represents lands, and Gen represents mountains. They are all created by the soil. Thus, Earth and Gen attribute to soil elements. According to the Book of Change, Earth is dry soils because it next to the element of fire which burns and dehydrate the soils. Gen is wet soils because it next to water which moisturize the soils and made them wet. When the 5 elements associated with the post-natal 8 trigrams in the Book of Change, it gives each trigram additional meaning. We have learned that soil generate metal. Both trigram heaven and joy attribute to metal. Let's talk about trigram heaven first. Heaven represents toughness and firmness, persistent strength. As we all know, gold is the most precious metal. It is also the hardest material in the world. Scientists told us that the formation of gold didn't originate on our own planet. Meteors collided with the young Earth 3.8 billion years ago, bringing gold with them. It was raining gold at that time as the Earth had a weak atmosphere to ward off these meteors. If this is true, then gold is the precious gift given by heaven. According to the Book of Change, trigram heaven attribute to metal. Its character is adamant. Persistent strength. Never give up. Trigram joy also attribute to metal. According to the Book of Change, joy denotes a young girl, big mouth, and hurt. We're all aware that young girls like to dress up. They like to wear accessories. Joy refers to the gleaming, glimmered jewels. So, can you imagine a glamorous young lady wearing all the shining jewelry? She is drawing everyone's attention, including robbers. Therefore, trigram joy also denotes a killing attempt. Joy belongs to number 7 in the post-natal 8 trigram. 7 is not a good number in Chinese, it relates to an image of killing and hurting. According to Chinese numerology, it is known as killing 7. Heaven and joy are both attribute to element metal. Metal is associated with autumn. It features contracting, declining. West. Sense of killing. Metal also represents white color. Why white color? Because metal represents contracting substances. It is a hard object in favor of cold weather. Glaciers, icebergs, sea ice, and an icy lake are all white-covered frozen nature match with the metal characteristics. That's why metal signifies white color. Then, metal generate water. Trigram pit attribute to water. It features the north, cold weather, winter. Water also signify the origin of life. When a mother's waters break, it is a sign that a baby is coming soon. Water also signify black color. Water represents danger. So does trigram pit. Ocean can be frightening when it is in a bad temper. It is the home base for hurricanes. It is also a lightning magnet, which can electrocute any living being. Much of the ocean remains unexplored. Along with sharks, there are still many unknown predators lurking beneath the surface. The ocean makes us, weak humans, attracted to its shiny depths. We know so little about the oceans. And there are still a lot in the ocean that humans have yet to find. Thus, water also signify wisdom. So does trigram pit. Then, water generate wood. Water nourish trees, but soils must be presented. Without soil, the roots of the trees had no ground to grow. Trigram gen attribute wet soils because it is so close to water. Thus, water generate wood provided soil is presented. Both trigrams quake and sun attribute to wood. Book of Change said quake would invigorate all living being. It represents the season of spring. Direction of the east where the sun rises. It marks the vitality of life. Everything becomes active and vigorous. The next trigram is sun. Book of Change said sun signify winds. But it also signify wood. Since sun is associated with wood, therefore, it also signify grass and plants. Would generate fire. Trigram leave attribute to fire. It denotes the south. Red or purple color. It represents warm weather. Summer season. Bonfire is beautiful. Thus leaves signify something beautiful. Fire is associated with bombs and explosions. Hence, trigram leave also represents war and conflict. Fire burns everything to ash. Thus, fire generates soils. Fire generate dry soils. Hence, trigram earth denotes dry soils. Ecosystem runs our world in orderly manner. The 5 elements served as a model to show how the law of natural order works. Ancient Chinese used the idea of generate and destroy to examine if all elements are maintained in harmony. If any elements are overwhelmed or over-repressed, relevant consequences will result, which at the same time indicates a relevant sign. For example, according to the principle water destroy fire. If water is overwhelmed, fire will be over-repressed. As a result, we will see a relevant sign. An image or a scene indicating that fire is difficult to ignite. Another good example is traditional Chinese medicine. The ancient Chinese treat the human body as an all-in-one entity in which the 5 elements manifest different human organs. Each organ is associated with its own element. Our state of health depends on the harmony of 5 elements. You got sick when there was an imbalance, deficiency, or excess. For example, according to TCM theory, stomach attribute to the element of soils, and liver attribute to the element of wood. As we already learned, would destroy soil, which also means liver would repress stomach soil. Let's say a patient suffered from stomach cancer and underwent stomach removal surgery. So his stomach soil no longer exists. It means there will be no stomach soil available for liver wood to repress. Thus, excessive liver wood will be expected. That's why it is very common to see stomach cancer spread to the liver. Same case as lung disease. According to traditional Chinese medicine, humans' lungs is associate with metal, and heart is associate with fire. Book of Change said fire destroy metal. which also means heart fire, repress, lung metal. If lung becomes ill, the deterioration of lung metal causes heart fire to become overwhelmed. That's why pneumonia is life-threatening. I hope this video can give you a better picture about the 5-element system. If you understand the logic of generate and destroy, you will be aware that everything is made for its own purpose. Now, it's time for our 1-minute writing session. This time, let's recap what we've learned so far. We've learned the Chinese character number 1 to 10. I thought that if you knew the numbers from 1 to 10, you could read the lunar calendar. The lunar calendar plays a significant role in Chinese culture as it involves cosmology, health preservation, medicine, feng shui, and many other fields. Ancient Chinese used the heavenly stem, earthly branch system to calculate time, which is a huge subject I will cover in a later video. Let me provide an example. This is a lunar calendar that we can typically download to our smartphones. It is often presented in conjunction with the Western calendar. Lunar calendar usually lags 1 month behind the Western calendar. For example, if this is Western February, it is usually a lunar January. It explains why Chinese New Year usually takes place in February. This is the February 20th, 2015 in the Western calendar. Below number 20, it indicates the date of the lunar calendar, which is the 2nd of lunar January. The lunar calendar is all written in Chinese characters. Can you spot any number that you have learned? Yes, this is 2, 3, 4. Assumed you can recognize this as 2, then you might come up a question if it is the 2nd, 12 or 22nd. I will introduce you a new word, chu. Please memorize it. Chu means initial. So initial 2 means this is the 2nd date of the month. This is the 3rd date, 8th date, 9th date, and 10th date, etc. If you see any other Chinese character interrupted, they are usually the information about 24 solar terms. You will learn more if you stay tuned with me. In my future video, I will bring you through the heavenly stem, earthly branch system and also the 64 hexagrams in more detail. Thank you.